While reading through the Old Testament book of Isaiah, there were some interesting things that were brought to my attention. One of those things is that the prophet Isaiah is led by God to deal directly with a number of different nations. And he writes in the 19th chapter, in verse number 22, dealing with the nation of Egypt, "The Lord shall smite Egypt. He shall smite and heal it. And they shall return even to the Lord. And he shall be entreated of them and shall heal them." It's very interesting to imagine that such a broken nation as Egypt, such a wicked nation as Egypt, could possibly even be healed and brought back to the Lord. And I think that's true today. We oftentimes look at our own countries and nations, look at the nations around the world, in particular the Western world, and we often feel as if we have gone so far away from God, so far away from what we ought to be, that the judgment of God is upon us and there is no hope and there is no return. But we find the opposite here, that God is able to take a nation that is so wicked, that has turned its back on God, and He's able to bring it back to Himself. He's able to heal it and to cause it to return unto Him. But He does that, very interestingly in this text, He does that through smiting that nation. He shall smite and heal it. And this is very often the pattern we find in Scripture, that it's through difficulty, it's through the chastening hand of God that He brings people and nations back to Himself. Sometimes nations and people are so stubborn that it takes the judgment of God to be poured out in greater measure for them to wake up and to return. And so I wonder tonight, perhaps God's dealing with you individually, not just our nation, but perhaps God's dealing with you individually. And if He is, then what will it take? How much of His judgment, how much of His smiting will it take for you to return to Him? The old evangelist Vance Havner once said something very interesting. He said, God uses broken things. It takes broken soil to produce a crop, broken clouds to give rain, broken grain to give bread, broken bread to give strength. It is the broken alabaster box that gives forth perfume. It is Peter weeping bitterly who returns to greater power than ever. And I think through all of this, through the smiting of God, through the breaking of God, God breaking us, that we can return with great power to serve Him and live for Him like we have never done before. I'm praying that God would do just that, would heal us through His hand of judgment and through His smiting. God bless you all.